This is the Horse Radio Network. This is episode 219 of Horse Tip Daily, a different horse tip, a different equine topic, a different equestrian expert every day. Horse Tip Daily brings the world of equine knowledge to you one day at a time. Today's tip is sponsored by Equestrian Collections, for the whole universe of equestrian shopping at your fingertips at a price you can afford. Visit them at equestriancollections.com. Enjoy today's tip. Glenn the Geek back with you from Lexington, Kentucky, and welcome back to Horse Tip Daily. Well, today we continue with the series we started last week. We'll do a couple more episodes on insurance. This is equine insurance, the kind that you need for your horse and your farm. And we thought that, it's tough to learn about that stuff and to really take the time to investigate it. So we have Amy Daum here, who is from Broadstone Insurance. She's doing a series of tips for the Jumping Radio Show. This tip is taken off of episode 15 of the Jumping Radio Show. And Broadstone Insurance is one of the leading equine insurance providers in the United States. And Amy is the COO, Chief Operating Officer, and has been around the equine insurance world for a long time. And we're going to get back to her tip in 1 minute here. But first, we want to speak about our friends at Equestrian Collections. Equestrian Collections brings the whole universe of equestrian shopping to your fingertips. Any given day, they have over $100 million of products for you to choose from. They know that riding and taking care of your horse takes up lots of your time, so Equestrian Collections is open for you 24/7. And their advanced technology allows you to find exactly what you need on the website and to check out in a little under 7 minutes. This week, I wanted to encourage you to check out their tent sale and closeout sections. They have 42 pages of closeout and discounted merchandise for you at unbelievable savings. From riding shirts to bits to stirrups to helmets, and the list goes on and on. And the prices I see here just cannot be beat. Plus, if you use the coupon code 10DISCOUNT at checkout, you will get an additional $10 off your order of $120 or more. That's 10 discount to get that additional $10 off, even the marked down items in the closeout section. Visit equestriancollections.com today.
Well, Amy, welcome back to the show. We got started with some really useful tips last week on the Jumping Radio show here about equine insurance. And I think we're going to talk about the medical insurance covered this week, are we?
Yes, definitely. And I think that for the average horse owner, major medical surgical coverage, which is what is generally known as, is probably the most important coverage to consider and probably the one we get the most questions about, and also probably the coverage that varies the most from company to company. So it's probably something that we may need a little more time in just one segment to get through, and I'll try not to bore everyone to death. But definitely a hot topic when it comes to the clients that we have for sure.
So what's the first thing we have to consider then as a horse owner?
Oh, well, first thing I suppose is your budget and your financial situation, and taking a good hard look at the fact that if I run into, a worst-case scenario where it's the middle of the night, my horse is colicking, the vet's saying you need to get him to the clinic, and, you're looking at a surgery, do I have, $6,000 or $7,000 or $8,000 just, available to handle this, or not? And, the worst time to be making financial decisions is when you're in the middle of a crisis. So, if you're independently wealthy and you've got your own budget set up for those sorts of things, and not necessarily something that you worry about, but I don't think a lot of us are in that position, unfortunately. And the thing about major medical surgical coverage is that it is really very inexpensive in comparison to what it will cover and the amount of coverage you get if you need it. And so even for someone who necessarily, has the money set aside, it's not necessarily still a bad investment to spend maybe $200 in the year to have coverage for quite a bit of veterinary expenses. So definitely first thing is to look at your budget, decide, how you're going to handle a situation if it arises, because the worst time to have to figure that out is when you're in the midst of a crisis. So as far as the coverage is concerned, the idea behind major medical and surgical is that it's there to help reimburse you for your veterinary expenses if the horse were to have a problem, an injury, an illness, accident, disease, So something other than routine care. So it's not like human health insurance where it will also cover for like inoculations, worming, teeth care, hoof care, regular maintenance types of things. Not that human health insurance covers for worming. But anyway, so it's not meant to be something that covers for routine stuff. It's really meant to be there to cover you in the event of a problem. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. The second thing is that it is a coverage that is not generally available on its own, meaning that you can't just purchase a major medical surgical policy. It's an endorsement that gets added to a mortality policy. And we talked about the mortality coverage last time, which is your life insurance policy. So the mortality policy is your actual base policy. The major medical surgical is an endorsement that you add to it if you choose to. Thirdly, generally speaking, and it depends on company, and there probably are 6 or 7 major companies out there that offer this sort of coverage. Generally speaking, there are age restrictions when it comes to major medical surgical. They depend on company. 15 is generally speaking the last year for most companies that they offer the coverage. At 16, they'll start offering what's called, which is typically speaking will cover for only surgically related veterinary expenses for a life-saving. So that's something to keep in mind. So if you've got an older horse, you might not have as many options as if you've got a younger horse. So those are sort of the basic ideas behind it. The coverage itself is quite extensive for the most part. And again, this is going to vary from company to company. So if you are looking for this type of insurance, you really want to talk to the agent, find out what companies they represent, and ask, really what does this cover for? Sort of the things that the basic idea is that you really want to look for a coverage that is going to be broad enough that it will cover for things like diagnostics, most treatment options, not have a lot of bizarre exclusions. You want to look at co-pays, co-insurance, deductibles, those sorts of things. And I can get into those in more detail, but, mortality policies tend to be very standardized in the industry. They're very similar from company to company. The major medical surgical coverage is the one coverage that really varies quite a bit. A lot of the exclusions are similar, things that they don't cover. But there are a lot of variations on a theme when it comes to things like diagnostics and deductibles and restrictions on certain sorts of treatments and those sorts of items.
Now, you said the coverage was extensive, not expensive.
Exactly, and that's what's great. I mean, literally, just to give you a ballpark figure, because this is something people automatically, when they think about insurance, are like, well, I just can't afford it. The average cost for a $5,000 annual limit major medical surgical endorsement is about between $190 to $200 a year, and that's for $5,000 in coverage. And the deductibles are going to range anywhere from like $250 to $325. And that's an annual limit, meaning during the policy period is 12 months, from the day you start the policy until that same day the following year. So that would be the maximum they would pay out during that policy period. So it's not a per problem limit, it's a policy year limit, just to keep that clear. And that's pretty much standardized in the industry to my knowledge. So, $190, $200 a year for $5,000 in coverage. And most companies offer between $5,000 up to sometimes $15,000 annual limits. For example, the 3 companies that we work with, when you jump up from $5,000 to $7,500 annual limit, it's only a $50 difference in premium, which for $2,500 more in coverage is not so bad. So literally, you're looking at paying between $240 to $250 in the year for that much coverage. And believe me, if you need it, that's going to be the best investment you've ever made. And if you don't need it, it's probably still the best investment you never used because you've had a good year. So it's really pretty inexpensive for the amount of coverage that you get, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's very helpful, Amy, and it really does make it a lot more affordable than one really thinks about with equine insurance. And I think that's what we picked up last week, with your first introduction here to equine insurance, that it is affordable, and we all know how expensive it can be once you get to the vet, especially with the surgical procedure, and the bills just rack up, and it can be pretty horrifying.
It can be, and you don't want to be making that decision. Most of us, these horses are part of our families, and we will, practically sell our souls to the devil, to save them if given the opportunity, and to put your own finances at risk, to max out credit cards, to borrow money from your friends and your family, or do whatever you have to do to make it happen. If you can avoid those sorts of circumstances and just be able to say do it, and not have to worry about the fact that you've got coverage, can make a huge difference. And being in these sorts of situations is so stressful and upsetting to begin with. You don't really want to have to throw in, can I afford this into the mix? And so this can definitely give you the peace of mind not having to worry about that.
That is so true, Amy. Thank you so much. Well, that's very helpful, I think, and hopefully our listeners will have found it helpful too. And just to break down those different aspects of equine insurance and the different options there that are available to us. So, what do you have in store for next week's installment, Amy?
I think probably if we have a few minutes to get in the next installment in a little bit more detail with regard to if you are shopping around for the major medical coverage, some of the things to look into in a little bit more detail, and maybe some of the misconceptions about how the coverage works and doesn't work would probably be a good idea.
Well, we thank host Chris Stafford of the Jumping Radio Show and Amy Daum from Broadstone Insurance for bringing us these insurance tips. These are something that, we never like to think about, but when those vet bills come up, you think and you wish you had that Equine Major Medical. So take a look at it. You can find links to Broadstone on our show notes at horsetipdaily.com. Don't forget, you can find all the other shows on the network. We have 8 of them now. And you can find them all at horseradionetwork.com. And, of course, you can download them all through iTunes or Zune, or just play them right on your computer, right on the website. You can do it any which way you want to. And I'll be back again tomorrow with another new expert and a different horse tip. Until then, stay safe, everyone.